What you want, do what you want, be what you want.
And it's always the same!
I mean, rock and roll is ridiculous.
There's always preconceptions about someone who is in the public eye, and I think that's only natural, but they don't concern me. I am who I am, and people have a lot of conceptions about my image, which is something quite different from what I am. And I really like the idea of my work speaking for me, not me speaking for me. I think my work says a lot more interesting stuff than I ever could, and it's more eloquent, and that's what I feel I have to offer the world. I don't feel that what I have to say personally is that interesting, and it's not something that I have enthusiasm about. It's not fun for me. I don't really enjoy it. Whereas working on music and experimenting with film are things that I get so much pleasure out of, and I love working with the people that I get a chance to meet through it. It's very exciting, and it feels like it has purpose to me. So people's conceptions of what I am, in a way, that's their problem and not mine.
Aggressive business person. We hear stories that on the first album, a very young Kate Bush insisted Wuthering Heights be the first single against some resistance. Is that true, and are you, in fact, very aggressive about your business?
I don't know if I'm aggressive about my business, but I do, a lot of the time, feel strongly about what I want or how I want to see it presented. It is an expression of me at some point, and it seems wrong that as soon as it goes out into the world, it should leave me and my expression behind. Wuthering Heights, I felt, was a much more interesting single than perhaps some that were being suggested at that time. And I just felt it was a good idea at the time to hang out for it. I did feel strongly about it.
Certainly paid off. Number one record in the UK, yes, indeed.
First writing, it was all my brother's music, really, because I was very young. I suppose about 11 or 12. I used to sort of tinkle around with this. My father had this old organ out in the barn, this church organ, and all the mice used to eat the stops. So each day there'd be one less because they'd have chewed their way through it. So and I eventually moved on into the piano in the house. And really, until I got to about 13, I suppose, I wasn't actually, getting... My brothers also had this huge store of old singles that they'd collected, and that was brilliant because I could hear all these records that I'd never heard before that were, hits from, a few years back. And that was brilliant. All this wealth of material just sitting there that I wouldn't have heard otherwise. It was mainly traditional music. This was my brother's main influence, Irish and English traditional music. Well, I left school and wanted to become involved in dance, but had no qualifications, and saw this fantastic performance by Lindsay Kemp, a performance called Flowers.
This is a man who obviously influenced David Bowie quite a bit in his early career.
Yes, he did. I think he's influenced a lot of people.
And he has his new production of Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yes. Yeah. And really, he started it all. He inspired me totally with the idea of movement. I'd never seen anything like it. He was totally brilliant, fantastic. He said so much and didn't say anything. You know, physically, he moved all the time without actually talking. And I started going to his classes, and it was a complete experience for me, and I just felt this was it, this was what I'd been looking for. So in order to be able to control my body, I went to other dance classes and eventually became more involved with the dance than mine, but really only because Lindsay wasn't around to teach anymore. We know our lives so
happened in your late teens and not something that you've been brought up on?
No. I'd always liked dance. My best friend at school was a very good dancer, but right from the word go, I hated the dance teacher. She was so strict, and it just affected me. I didn't want to be involved in it.
So you continue to apply yourself, I guess, quite stringently. I mean, here we are in a place where you do your dance. Are you largely self-taught now, in a way? I mean, do you pursue moves that you design for yourself and so on?
No, I don't think I'm self-taught at all. I'm totally influenced by all the various teachers over the years. And although, you know, I make up moves and things for the songs, when I'm actually dancing, I'm always being taught. I'm just not good enough, really, to be without a teacher to correct me.
I've seen your progression as a dancer and a singer, and I think, God, she does it all so well. And yet I sense that you have a level of dissatisfaction around your dance. Is that true?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think I have a level of dissatisfaction around everything I do, really. I don't think I'd want to keep doing it if I didn't. It's, in a way, it's the desire to try and actually do something that you're pleased with that keeps you motivated.
Do you mean that you are never totally satisfied with your work?
No, I don't think so, no.
Do you approach a level of satisfaction?
Yes, otherwise I don't think... well, I think I'd go crazy if there was no sense of accomplishing something. I think in a lot of ways, for me, a sense of big achievement is actually finishing any project that is started. Every time I finish an album, it's a really good feeling that it's actually been completed. It's such a relief.
And how she was before the years flew by, and how she was when she was beautiful. She sang the letter
You suffered a fate in the early goings of your career of being somewhat of a pin-up girl in the British pop mags. How did you deal with that?
I think what worried me was that it was going to stop people taking my music seriously. I've always found it very complimentary if people say that they find me attractive. And my worry is really that it would get in the way of my music. It's not that I find that so much of a problem as that people wouldn't accept my music, but I don't think that has been a problem. I think people do seem to accept my music for its sake.
And does your sexuality have a role in your music?
Well, I think that's something I find very confusing, because I think the essence of all art is sensuality. And sexuality, I mean, I don't suppose I understand it fully, but I always tend to think that's something that's projected, and that sensuality is really where art is at. It's a much more subtle form of expression. Two parts of me, one that's a very social beast, and the other side of me is probably very quiet and likes to work alone, and in fact can't really work if there's more than a few people around.
Do you have special work habits that you subscribe to? You seem like a very disciplined artist, just judging by your work. Do you have a special place you go to work, a certain environment at certain hours? Do you do that?
I think the studio has become that disciplined place that I can go to now. It used to be my music room, wherever I had the piano. And I think it's helped me tremendously to actually have an environment where I can go to work. It just makes it that much easier for me to concentrate.
Yeah, and do you set hours that you go there?
Not actually set hours, it depends how I feel, but normally I'll go there and work for a certain amount each day, depending on how well the ideas are coming through. So it depends.
He's very understanding, he's so aware of all my situations.
It seems to me that a lot of the early songs that you wrote had to do with what I might call sort of classroom dreaming, sort of daydreaming about exotic lands and far-off places and England's history and that sort of thing. But the last album, The Dreaming, was quite a radical departure from that. Now, how do you explain that?
I think it started to happen on the third album, but it was really only in a couple of tracks. And I think things like Breathing, Army Dreamers, The Infant Kiss, they were, in a way, starting on that same route. And I think that's the sort of material, really, that I wanted to try and get to. And on the last album, it was definitely sort of reaching a point where I was feeling pleased with my work artistically, which was a change.
The symbolise, keep alive the territorial war. Erase the claim the place and say we dig for all. Dangle dangles in the bottle and you push them from the pull of the bush.
As early as about 1980, you were experimenting with the Fairlight computer musical instrument. Has that changed the way you approach creating music?
Yes, very much so. I think it was one of the best things to happen for me alongside rhythm machines. Not only has it helped with the initial writing process, where I'm getting associations of the sound straight away as I start writing the song, but also from an arrangement point of view, where if I want strings or brass on a track, I can work out an arrangement on the Fairlight with that particular sample sound. And then if I want, get the real musicians in to redo it.
Yeah, well, your use of it's become more and more extensive, but you were, I think, one of the first artists that I ever knew, along with perhaps Peter Gabriel, who used the Fairlight at all.
I was very lucky in that I was at the studio where they decided to demonstrate the machine at a very early stage. It had only been in the country for one, they were just setting up the company. And as soon as I saw it, I knew that I had to have one. I mean, it was going to become a very important part of my work.
I don't know why I'm crying. Am I suspended in death? Until I'm ready for you. Until I'm ready for you. Can I have it all?
All come in. You're using, I guess, this, is it called a fairlight or an emulator?
Fairlight, yes.
Where you get to play people's voices on your own and strange sounds taken from, there's one that seems like a transmission from a NASA flight taking the 9th orbit around the Earth, and your voice made into water. And I guess you've only just started to experiment with it. You had begun really on the dreaming, but...
That's right. I think really what made the big difference to me was becoming involved in the production, taking over the production. Then I had control of every area of the song. And there's no doubt that production has a big effect on a song. It can ruin a good song. It can make not a very good song really quite good. So I think from a writing point of view, the more control you have over that whole area, hopefully the more direct your expression is, it's the more how you want it to be at the end result.
My excitement turns into fright. Uh-oh, uh-oh, my words faded. What am I gonna say? Mustn't give the game away.
After the last album, I really wanted to do something very different, and it took me a long time to relax and find another area of music that was different from the last album.
Had you found yourself under an enormous amount of pressure, the expectation perhaps of the record companies and the public and the people who write about music and so on?
Yes, I think it always does put a pressure on you, but I think the main pressure is, in a way, to come up with music that's good and interesting and different from the last album. And that's the pressure in a way that I think I put myself under, because it's a writing situation. It's when the album is actually released that I think the pressure comes in from the media and other people in a big way.
If only could, I'd make a deal with God, and I'd get him to swap our places. Be running up that road, be running up that hill, be running up that building.
My favorite video is Running Up That Hill, and I have to ask you, who did the choreography for that?
It was a lady called Diane Gray-Cunnett, and she is incredible, most beautiful dancer, and she was a lot of fun to work with. We got on really well, and I think from the minute we started till we finished working together, we didn't stop laughing. It was one of those really fun relationships.
Well, the dance in it is just beautiful. I think it's one of the best videos I've ever seen that is able to get dance in it and show it off to its best advantage.
It's really nice that you think that, because very much what we wanted to try and achieve was to make it a serious piece of dance, which I didn't feel I'd done up until that point. I'd played around with dance, but in a very sort of theatrical way, and in some ways it was sort of saying goodbye to that dancing side of me by doing it, you know, in a very sort of pure way. It's very much a pure dance video without any theatre or anything attached. And because I feel very much a shift now from dance into film imagery. So they're two very different things. Not that dance couldn't still be incorporated, but it's not the same attitude.
Oh, here I go. It's coming for me through the trees. Oh, help me, someone, help me, please. Take my shoes off and throw them in the lake, and I'll be 2 steps on the water.
I think anyone that has any kind of creative outlet is uneasy, and that's what makes them need to express themselves. I think all human beings are uneasy on some level, and you know, how can you not be when we don't really know what we're doing here or what we're meant to do with it? You know, so there's the continual questioning going on, which I think is good. But you know, it's the way human beings are. There's a lot of ironies put together in life. You know, nothing is really that straightforward, is it?
Just when I think I'm clean, I must admit
album, there becomes some big discovery, which in a way I think is used well on the next project. And it's that during that particular album project you're learning how to do it. So I think it's all a big learning process, really. Each time I start an album, it's like a new adventure. It's like starting from scratch in a way.
Where does your main strength come from? Come from your family or from your music?
I think that's a very difficult question because my family are very important to me and have been around since I was born, whereas my music is something that came much later. But there's such a personal involvement with my music that's very much inspired by people, but it's a very private thing and it's very much a release for me. I think I get a tremendous amount of support from my family, which is very important to me. And I don't know if music supports you. It's not necessarily a comforting thing, but it's like a very close friend, I guess.
Don't give up, 'cause you have friends. Don't give up, you're not beaten yet. Don't give up, I know you can make it good.
Listening to your albums from the very first to the most recent, there's a change in your voice, and it seems that your voice is lower and a little more aggressive, as if you're working harder at punching out the lyrics.
It's very different from the listener, for the listener, as it is for me, because lyrics have always been very important for me. And, you know, all people go through phases of things they try out. And at that period when I made the first album, I was very much experimenting with a higher vocal range. It was just something I wanted to try out. And also the production has a tremendous amount to do with things like that. The voice level, it makes a big difference as to how the voice comes across. But my voice has changed a lot, and I think that is basically what I see as the difference, that as I've grown up, my voice has grown up with me, it's become stronger, and I can do things now with my voice that were not easy for me to do, you know, years ago.
Has your voice lost any of its range?
I can get up there if I need to, but I just prefer working in this range now. I think a lot of females go through that. If you listen to Joni Mitchell, her early stuff is very high, and with each album she gets lower and lower. So, you know, it's just a progressive thing for people.
I'm looking at the big sky. I'm looking at the big sky. No, I'm looking at the big sky. You never understood me. Never really tried. That crowd looks like
Did you start collaborating with her on Dreaming? Was that the first album you worked with her?
No. I was actually a member of the very first band she had together back in 1977.
Really?
Yeah, we got that band together. I was playing lots of small bands at that time, and we decided that we've got to get a new angle on this, you know. And I knew her brother Paddy, so we decided that what we'd do is we'd try and get together a pub band. And what we really needed was a different angle. And the different angle we came up with was a female singer. Who did we know that had a good singer? And, oh, of course, Paddy's sister. So she was well into it straight away, you know. We were into the whole thing, you know. We were playing pubs using dry ice and stuff, you know. I mean, for us, it was great, you know. Bloody hell, what's going on here? There's a huge audience, you know. We're playing away. And she was just fantastic. We were doing James and the Cold Gun with dry ice and all that kind of stuff. It was very much an embryonic version of the stage show we did in '79, you know. And that's where I first met Kate. It was way back in early '77 when we had that band together. And I didn't actually contribute too much to her first album, except some artwork on the back. But from the Lionheart album, I was involved in the playing side, you know.
And eventually it moved into mixing engineering, essentially.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it kind of went along with the whole thing. We wanted to set up a demo studio, so we didn't have to waste money, you know, paying to do demos. So we set up a small 8-track demo studio in one of the barns at her parents' house. And, of course, you know, nobody was interested at all, you know. So I thought, well, somebody's got to do it, so I'll do it, you know. And I really got off on it. I really enjoyed it, you know. As well as the playing, I actually enjoyed getting sounds for people and, you know, exploring the whole possibility. And it ended up that when we did the Lionheart album and the album after that, we found we were trying to recreate the demos all the time. You know, we keep referring back to the demos and saying, well, look, that's got a really nice atmosphere. You know, how come we can't recreate this? And so the logical progression was to turn the 8-track studio into a proper mastering studio and take away the whole demo thing and work straight onto tape, which is what we started to do. And I kind of developed as an engineer along with the studio. As the studio got bigger and more expansive, so did I, basically, you know. And my involvement now is I probably have more involvement than anybody else in what she does, you know. And I say that very modestly because, I mean, I don't really feel that anybody has that much involvement in what she does. It all comes out of her own head, really, you know. We just try and contribute a little bit here and there, you know.
It's very important to me to work with people who, ideally, I've worked with a long time. There's many musicians as well as people like Del who, the more we work, the more it's just this sense of, you just know each other so well, you don't really have to communicate with words. You know, a lot of that's all been done years ago. You've got all that out the way. And I suppose in some ways it was particularly pleasing on this album that I was able to work with a lot of people in a much more direct way who are old friends, people like Stuart Elliott, who's been on every album now, and to actually work with them on rhythm tracks rather than bringing them in at a much later removed stage. It was really good, and it's very important to me that that I trust the people that I work with, and I feel very comfortable, for instance, working with Del. A lot of what I do is quite personal, and in some ways I'm quite a shy performer about trying ideas out. And I feel very comfortable working with Del in a way that I don't think there's not many people I would feel that way with. So it's very important to me to have that kind of trust in such an intimate situation, because most of the time it's either just myself or Del and myself, and the musicians are brought in at stages, so you know you've got to have good communication.
It was originally Dave Gilmour who introduced you to the powers that be in the record industry. Do you still maintain a friendship with him?
Dave is really, he's my hero. He's fantastic. I mean, without Dave, I doubt very much if things would have taken the course as quickly as they did. I think he was very kind and brave to do what he did, because I was just a kid writing songs, really, and he was introduced to us and came and heard the songs, and from there it was him that really got me the record contract. People expect too much sometimes from the personalities that actually make the music, and really I think the work is what should stand out, not the person or the personality. The relationship to the audience is that I'm producing the best that I can at the time, and that's all I can do, and I really hope they like it. But I think it's important to change, and the person I was when I was writing the first albums is a bit different to the person who's writing these songs now. And I find